everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we kick this off, I would like to point out to the audience that we welcome audience questions. So please post your questions in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. Post them as they come to you during today's presentation, and we will address those at the conclusion. So it's now my pleasure to turn this over to Bob Buchkowski, CEO of MADI Therapeutics. Bob, the floor is yours.
Callie, thank you, and thank you to the Force team for arranging this, and welcome everyone. I'm going to walk you through the MADI Therapeutics story. We're an ocular-focused drug delivery company with a non-invasive approach that we believe is an outstanding opportunity for both patients, but also for physicians. The way that we like to think about our technology is a replacement for eye drops. And so the first question then is, well, what's the real problem with eye drops? Well, they are used broadly. More than 1 billion people worldwide have vision impairment or blindness. And these are typically from preventable causes such as glaucoma. And a lot of the blindness is actually caused by inadequate delivery of the eye medication. The problem with eye drops is you have to rely on patients to administer them. And it's difficult for patients to do that. Most of the diseases that impact vision are diseases of older patient populations. And so there's a fiscal element to putting a drop in their eye. Patients don't really like the sensation. It tends to burn and sting. And so for serious diseases and sight-threatening diseases such as glaucoma, 50% of patients don't take their medication after the first 6 months of treatment. And this is a debilitating disease that eventually leads to blindness if untreated. So delivery via eye drops is unreliable and dangerous. It's also causing severe side effect problems, both on the local element of the eye, causes burning and stinging and redness at the surface of the eye. But when you take an eye drop, it's inevitable that you blink your eye. And when you do that, about 80% of the drug goes through the nasolacrimal duct and goes directly into the bloodstream. So that creates systemic toxicities and concerns. And so the other issue with eye drops is you have a very short contact surface on the surface of the eye. Typically for most medications, the drug is only there for about 5 minutes before it is washed out through tear turnover. And so it's difficult for patients to administer. It creates side effects both locally but also systemically. And then as a result of this, physicians add on additional medications because of lack of patient compliance. Also, about once every year, every other year, you hear about a severe contamination issue, and these lead oftentimes to loss of an eye. And so we can avoid all of these issues with our solution, which is a punctal plug-based drug delivery system. Punctal plugs are a device that have been around for a long period of time. They're used to treat dry eye disease. So they're placed in the tear duct of the eye, and then they block the drainage of tear, so it keeps more tear on the surface of the eye and helps treat dry eye. Our delivery system is called the Evolute. It's a novel punctal plug. If you Google punctal plugs, one of the things you'll find is that they tend to fall out. And that's okay when you're just treating dry eye, but it's not okay when you're trying to administer drugs for long periods of time. We've developed a proprietary plug that has about a 95% retention rate over 12 weeks. Placing the device is non-invasive. It can be done in the office. It doesn't need an ophthalmologist to place the device. It can be done by an optometrist or a staff member. There's no breaking of the eye. There's no breaking of the cornea like there is with invasive types of delivery systems where you have to go through the cornea and either inject or implant it. Our device is simple. It elutes a steady supply of drug 24/7. And so that's a huge advantage over eye drops because we get a steady state of drug, and we believe that will lead to better patient efficacy. And it also minimizes or reduces both the local side effects, but it essentially eliminates the systemic side effects that are common from eye drop usage. So we think it's very simple and very effective. It's incredible for doctors. Physicians are incredibly I guess, frustrated by lack of compliance that patients have with eye drop regimens. So this takes the treatment course out of the patient's hands and really puts it more in the physician's hands. Physicians will also, we think, adopt this because there will be reimbursement for placing the device. So we believe all of this will lead to improved vision outcomes, less loss of vision. And we think that's something that the market will greatly embrace, both from a physician standpoint, but also from a patient standpoint. This device is tiny. You can see where it's placed in the lid and into what's called the punctal area of the eye. It's cosmetically invisible, yet our plug has a 92% retention rate over a 12-month period of time. The lower picture shows how it is compared to a penny. So you can barely see the device, and we color it because once it's placed in your eye, a patient can't feel it. So we color it, and so we instruct the patient to lower their eyelid so they can see that it's still there once every week or so, and just make sure that it hasn't fallen out. We believe that this will provide better vision outcomes, especially for diseases like glaucoma, will provide less local irritation. There's no surgery involved, and we really believe we can eliminate the bulk of RX eye drop administration. From a payer standpoint, we believe this will slow the progression of disease. For diseases like glaucoma, that will save payers for adding on additional medications or ultimately taking on more invasive types of procedures, surgical procedures, laser procedures, the implantation of stents and shunts and things like that. So if we can treat the patient up front and prevent their progression of their disease, we believe we can prevent all of these additional treatment paradigms that patients typically undergo because basically of lack of compliance. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a reimbursement rate for physicians. So they get paid for putting this in as opposed to what they do for writing a prescription, which is just they write a prescription, the patient walks out the door. This platform is well protected. We have 152 issued patents globally. There's about 14 or 40 pending applications, and there's about 17 different patent families, the most important of which are probably the formulation patents. And our risk profile with this system is very different than a normal biotech company. We're taking drugs that have already been approved in the eye. So we know by definition they're safe and effective in the eye. And we're reformulating them in a way that makes them even more efficacious, and we believe ultimately will be more or will be safer than the equivalent eye drop medication. So the FDA is already familiar with these medications. They've already been approved. So it really reduces our regulatory risk and our ability to get multiple products to market. Let's see. Sorry, this is a short insertion video. I guess it's not working. I've got a download I can show you at the end. But the video is only 15 seconds. That was actually our CFO, our chief scientific officer, who's had one of these plugs implanted. It can be done at the slit lamp, or it can be done just with the patient lying down. This video is 15 seconds. So in the course of that 15 seconds, the plug is easily placed and seated, and then it's a simple thing to move on. This is the only kind of technical slide that I've got in this short summary deck, but this is just showing the elution rates, so the drug elution rates over time for two of our anti-inflammatory formulations. The blue line is nepafenac, which is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. That's gone through phase 2 studies, and it shows about a 2 or 3 microgram per day steady state elution over a 14-day period of time. In phase 2 studies with nepafenac, we showed reduction of pain, statistically significant. We had trending inflammation reduction. Most importantly, we saw statistically significant improvement in visual acuity over a 2-week period of time. So the marketing message with this product is your patients are going to see better. They're going to have a more comfortable cataract procedure, and it will eliminate one of the eye drops that physicians typically prescribe for patients. The other curve, the golden curve, is our steroid formulation, which is called dexamethasone. The point of this graph is to show that we can customize the elution profile depending on what we're trying to achieve. So for dexamethasone, we're trying to reduce inflammation after cataract surgery. Well, the peak inflammation period is in the first 2 or 3 days after cataract surgery, and that corresponds to a huge drug load. So we believe we will virtually eliminate all of the inflammation that's caused by a patient undergoing cataract surgery. This product is ready. Both of these products are actually ready to go into phase 3 studies. Nepafenac has been through a phase 2 study with the results that I had previously highlighted. With dexamethasone, since it's a known molecule, we're going straight into a phase 3, and we feel very confident in the results, especially based on the amount of drug that we are eluting during the first week or so of following cataract surgery. So what are the diseases we can currently treat, and what are the market sizes? Well, the eye drop market is about a $6 billion marketplace. It's really driven by ophthalmologists and optometrists. And the 4 main diseases that we'll be pursuing with treatment are glaucoma, which is the largest market, definitely over 1 million patients a year, 6 million patients a year have in the US with filling prescriptions. Dry eye is the second largest market. There are a couple RX products that are already approved, both of which have achieved sales of over $1 billion annually. Ocular inflammation is the next area. It's caused primarily after cataract or refractive surgery. There are 4 million cataract surgeries done in the US every year, and that number is growing as the population ages. And then the fourth main area we're targeting is ocular allergy. And this is really dominated by over-the-counter eye drops. We believe patients that experience ocular allergy will really do anything to relieve their symptoms. And so we think that's a market that's very prime for this. This is a short manufacturing video that's also not working. We have a dedicated manufacturing facility with equipment that we've designed and developed in-house. It's here in Texas, and we can produce about 3.5 or 4 million units a year out of that facility. The management team has a deep ophthalmology background and experience. I was CEO of a public company called QLT. I was with them for 15 years. I helped to launch the first product for macular degeneration. Prior to that, I was with Allergan for 8 years, was involved in several relevant ocular launches, Acular, non-steroidal, and Ocuflox, a anti-infective. Chris Muller, our COO, is a former Allergan VP. He was with Allergan for about 15 years. He spent a lot of time in the eye care division. He helped launch a couple glaucoma drugs and had multiple artificial tear launches. After he left Allergan, he went to AMO, which was ultimately acquired by Abbott. And he got a lot of surgical experience with refractive lasers, with intraocular lenses, with phaco machines, and things like that. Our CFO, Cam Nelson, is a Dartmouth grad. He was with me and was CFO at QLT, so he has public CFO background and experience. And our Chief Scientific Officer, Deepank Udkiti, is a former head of formulations and process development at QLT, where he was there for 15 years, and is really the man responsible for our formulations efforts and all the work that goes into creating each new and patentable formulation. I've got about 3 slides left to talk about the market and dynamics and the company. But as I mentioned, we have 2 anti-inflammatories that are ready to initiate phase 3 studies in cataract surgery. When we just look at those 2 lead candidates and we use a discounted net present value analysis in 2028, January 1 of 2028, the valuation of the company rises to $1.3 billion. And that's just based purely on a discounted NPV evaluation just for the first 2 lead products. So it does not include any of our other development products in ocular allergy or glaucoma. And then when we look further out, This is a kind of a summary table that looks at the product revenue for each of the products, the potential acquisition premium, and this is all taken account in 2032. So when you look at nepafenac, that would come to market in 2028, dexamethasone in 2029, then olopatadine is for ocular allergy, that would come in 2030, and then travoprost for glaucoma would come in 2031. So when we take this snapshot in 2032, the olopatadine and travoprost launches are still in their infancy. The reason travoprost takes so much longer is because the FDA requires 1 year of follow-up in the phase 3 study. Nepafenac and dex for cataract surgery, the endpoints are really within about 12 weeks. And the primary efficacy endpoint is really taking place within the first 2 weeks. So you follow those patients for a period of time, but those studies can be done much more quickly. The glaucoma study will take longer, and then the follow-up will take longer as well. When you look at annual revenue, nepafenac and dex in 2032 are nearing their peak. We think dexamethasone will peak around 300, and nepafenac will peak around $250 million. Olopatadine and travoprost are still in the early stages of their launch cycle. But in 2032, we anticipate having almost $800 million in revenue. The net present value of those programs is highlighted by each program and totals up to $5.7 billion in 2032. And then we look at revenue multiple to net present value, and we compare that to acquisition premiums. So in the healthcare space, typical acquisition premiums range from anywhere from 4 to 7 times revenue. And so we include both of those as parameters. And you see basically at the 7 times revenue mark, the acquisition premium lines up very almost exact with our net present value of about $5.7 billion. So that's really what the long-term growth could be of the company, just based on the first 4 products that we are in development. So what are we trying to accomplish with this fundraise? Essentially, what we're trying to do now is a $5 million bridge that will lead directly either to another private placement or an initial public offering. And we have a relationship with an investment banker who's very eager to take us public. It would obviously take us about 6 months to do that. And so the 5 million bridge is going to enable us to give us some runway to either go public, or if we get a private offer that we like prior to going public, we would take that. The use of proceeds is highlighted on the right. It's about $10 million each for the phase 3 programs for the anti-inflammatories. Additionally, over the course of the next year and a half, we want to run 2 phase 2s, one in glaucoma for $3 million, one in allergy for $3 million. We need to continue to support our manufacturing facility, and that will cost us about $3 million. And this funding will take us through the majority of 2027. And then the corporate overhead and capital outlay of $6 million. The primary spend in that area is additional manufacturing equipment. And that takes us to a $35 million spend over that period of time. And again, will carry us for the better part of 2 years. The bridge financing that we're proposing to talk about today is an equity investment at $35 a share. So it's approximately $82 million pre-money valuation. So it's straight equity. But in addition to that, we're offering what I think is a unique royalty payment that would be based on 15% of revenue that we achieve from selling our products. And we offer to give an investor a 2x royalty return on product sales. So for instance, if an investor were to invest $1 million in equity, they would start earning a 2x return or $2 million return and still maintain the upside of their equity as we continue to grow the company. So that is really it for my prepared comments.
Okay, great. Yeah, so a few questions have come in. So what specific, what disease, ocular diseases or indications are going to target first? And with that, what clinical results have you seen so far?
So the lead product is nepafenac, the nonsteroidal. The clinical indication that we're pursuing will be pain associated with cataract surgery. And as I said earlier, we've showed a statistically significant reduction in pain. And I have some slides if you think we need to go through that. But we've also shown visual acuity improvement versus placebo. The second product we're pursuing is dexamethasone, a steroid. And with that product, we're pursuing inflammation after cataract surgery, so slightly different. And we're taking both of those products into phase 3 studies. And again, these molecules are both already approved as eye drop formulations. So our probability of success in terms of getting a good clinical outcome is very high, in our opinion.
Great. And can this be applied to macular degeneration?
Great question. Many topically administered eye drops have a very difficult time for back of the eye diseases. Eye drops have been tried for AMD and other retinal diseases, but I think the probability of us being able to do that is very low. There are a number of other types of delivery mechanisms that are involved for back of the eye disease. Unfortunately, almost all of those are invasive type of procedures. It would be wonderful if we could have a non-invasive approach for back of the eye disease, but I think it's very unlikely that we can get enough drug into the back of the eye. It would have to penetrate the cornea and then go all the way through the anterior segment to get into the back of the eye in the vitreous segment. And I think it's unlikely that we'll be able to accomplish that.
Thank you. And how do you ensure quality control and regulatory compliance in manufacturing, given that this is a combination drug device product?
Another very good question. So we have a GMP facility, and there are clear parameters for release, and we test each product for release characteristics. So it has to meet the exact elution profile that we're looking for. Then it also has to meet sterility criteria. One of the advantages of our system is that it's terminally sterilized using E-beam radiation. So if you do have any kind of contamination that occurs during the manufacturing process, it's eliminated during the E-beam radiation process. So it's administered, and if for some reason you did get an infection in the eye, which is very unlikely, but if you did, it would be easy to remove the device and just treat the infection and then reinsert the device once the infection had cleared. So manufacturing is something we've spent a lot of time on. As I said, we developed all of our robotic manufacturing equipment in-house. It's been validated, and it's really pretty neat. I'm sorry the video didn't work, so I could show you all that process. It's really a pretty cool system.
Great. And what is your go-to market strategy? Will you commercialize independently or partner with large pharma or device company for distribution?
I think in the US market, we plan on commercializing ourselves directly. There are about 3,000 physicians, ophthalmologists who really control the bulk of the cataract surgery market, which will be the first market that we're approaching. So we can really target those doctors with 20 or 25 sales reps and reach them very effectively. So it is the market dynamics, the launch aspects of this are fairly straightforward and fairly routine for both Chris and I, who have a lot of commercial experience in ophthalmology. Outside of the US, we really plan on out-licensing in appropriate markets, and we'll seek to do that in a way that enhances shareholder value. So we commercialize ourselves in the US market and then look to out-license ex-US.
And then any discussions with any strategic partners or acquirers in the ophthalmology space?
Yeah, we do have an investment from one of the larger ophthalmic companies. It's already invested in Maddie. Chris and I have been around. We know a lot of the management teams for Alcon and Allergan, J&J, all of the likely companies who would be interested in this technology, either as a partnership or as an acquisition down the road. So yeah, we frequently have those discussions. They're ongoing, and it's something that I think we look forward to as we get closer to market. I think a lot of the companies that are potential acquirers of MADI at this stage are really looking for revenue as opposed to pipeline. I think if you go back 10 or 15 years, the two primary ophthalmic companies, Alcon and Allergan, would have been doing earlier stage deals. But I think as those companies have matured, they're really looking to buy revenue. So I think as we get closer to revenue, those discussions will probably become more fruitful.
And will that be your preferred exit strategy?
Yeah, I think it really depends. If we go public, well, then, that's a whole different beast. If we stay private, I think ultimately the company would be acquired, whether that is based on phase 3 data or based on generating revenue or based on bringing a successful glaucoma product to market. I think each of those would be time periods where the strategics in the space would really be giving us a hard look. And I'm sure we'd be having discussions with them at each of those milestone stages, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so what differentiates MADI's drug-eluting plug from competitors or other sustained drug delivery modalities in ophthalmology?
The first way to look at ours is we're non-invasive. So there are relatively few non-invasive technologies. There are invasive technologies used for the back of the eye, as we discussed previously. There are a few invasive technologies that are used for front of the eye diseases in the anterior segment of the eye. There's one company on the market already with the competing dexamethasone, that's Ocular Therapeutics and Dextenza. They have a hydrogel polymer implant that erodes over time. And at the surface, you would think that erosion is a good thing. We actually think it's a bad thing. And in our device, we have a constant surface area in our device that's exposed to the tear film. And what that enables us to do is have a very constant elution profile into the eye. So we believe that gives a more consistent delivery of drug over time. When you look at Ocular Therapeutics, they actually failed one of their phase 3 studies. And as that system is bioeroding, it shrinks in the punctum. And as it shrinks, we think the punctum constricts and less drug goes to the surface of the eye, into the tear film where you want it, and more drug goes into the surrounding tissue. So we think that we provide a safer alternative with more consistent drug delivery to the surface of the eye than some of the potential competitors we would face in the marketplace.
And how easy is it to dislodge?
It's very difficult. I've worn one in my eye for 8 or 9 years. You don't know it's there. You don't even feel it, And again, we tell patients to lower the lid so they can see it. Otherwise, you can't really see it. So it's very difficult to dislodge it. It stays in place pretty well. But again, if one falls out, you just go back in and get another one inserted, and it's literally can be done in less than a minute.
And what's the projected profits of the implant?
This is really a pharmaceutical margin. Our cost of goods is very low. So even though it's a combination drug device, we're going to have a low single-digit cost of goods, and our pricing is going to be based on duration of efficacy. For the cataract products, those will both last for a couple weeks. In the case of the NSAID, it will last a bit longer because physicians use NSAIDs for 4 main reasons. One, to keep the pupil dilated, which makes it easier to do surgery. They use it for pain control, for inflammation control, and then they use it for prophylaxis or treatment of a common side effect called cystoid macular edema. Well, that's just basically swelling of the retina as a result of inflammation. That CME, cystoid macular edema, occurs more frequently in high-risk patients, and diabetics are high-risk patients. So there's hundreds of thousands of diabetics getting cataract surgery every year. Our NSAID actually lasts for 6 weeks. The steroid lasts for 2 weeks. Our glaucoma product, the phase 2 study, we know our glaucoma product lasts for at least 90 days, but our phase 2 study will test to see whether it can last for 6 months. And if it does last for 6 months, then it would compete effectively with invasive type of approaches that are either injected into the eye or surgically implanted. So we have a pharmaceutical margin on sales, even though this is a combination drug device, but we think this will be very long-lasting product revenue streams, more like pharmaceuticals than devices.
And what is the company's current funding status and burn rate? How much runway do you have to reach your next milestone?
We just completed a $2 million raise, which will give us essentially a 5 or 6 month runway. The goal is to try and get the bridge financing done before the end of the year, so we can either pursue the IPO by mid-year next year or continue to work on the private placement side.
Great. Well, that concludes the questions. For the audience, if you have additional questions or would like to learn more about Maddie and the opportunity, please reach out to me. Everyone has my email address. I'm happy to make the introduction in turn. They will have all of your information as well, and we'll be reaching out. And Bob, I'd like to turn it back over to you for any final words before we close out today.
Well, Callie, many thanks to you, and thanks to all of you for attending. And we really believe this is a much needed technology to help patients keep from losing vision from the diseases we've outlined. We really look forward to a day where patients and physicians don't rely on patients to take eye drops and can really take more control of their treatment paradigm. So thank you all very much for your questions today and interest, and we look forward to hearing any other follow-up questions you have.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.